Go for it.
It looks like there are some people who feel they want to be happy today, but they have no other reason but to be in this class. Thank you guys. This is going to be the second lecture on BBNJ, Marine Biodiversity Beyond Areas of National Jurisdiction. We started yesterday with an overview of how the process at the United Nations started. The idea today is to go through the main issues under discussion. Everything, unlike the facts that we went through yesterday, everything that we're going to talk about today is absolutely open. With the exception of what the rules among us are, everything is under negotiation. So every opinion is valid, every question is valid. What I'm going to do is to present to you what the main issues are today, and you can draw your own conclusions. We will have, I hope, sustained discussions. So you remember that yesterday we went through the package that was agreed upon in 2011. You remember that that package is for a process to ensure there is a framework for conservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. We saw that there are states that sustain that there's no legal gap there, others that there is a need to develop an instrument. There is a nuance between those two groups of states. I would say today, Japan, Russia, and the United States, today, sustain there's no legal gap. That the problem is one of lack of will in the implementation of existing agreements and commitments. I would say a big group of states, the European Union mainly, believes there is a legal gap. There is lack of regulation. And there is a group in the middle with interesting nuances. That group is the G77 and China. It is a big group. And this group sustains regarding the two main issues. There are nuances, and they are between the EU and the other group. Basically regarding conservation and establishment of marine protected areas, for example, there the G77 agrees with the European Union that there is a lack of a global instrument allowing for the legitimate establishment of marine protected areas. When we talk about legitimate, and we're going to go to the issue of legitimacy, it means something that is recognized as valid by third states, that is not only adopted by groups of states or something that could be called coalitions of the willing, but that is recognized as mandatory by third states. But at the same time, the G77 does not agree with the European Union that there is a complete lack of norms in what regards to the use of genetic resources. The G77 there believes there is a gap in the specific legal regime, but there are principles in UNCLOS that should be applied. And with that, we're talking about the common heritage of mankind. So basically that is the first part of the package, what it represents, different positions. That is, how to say, the conceptual package. What is under discussion? And if you look at it, there are different parts of it. You have, together and as a whole, you have conservation, that yesterday you remember that is what the European Union basically was pushing for. Sustainable use, what the G77 was pushing for. And then you have some additions. Basically, environmental impact assessments, and something very key to something development that we're very keen on, capacity building, and the transfer of marine technology. So just to summarize the package, I mean, we have conservation, we will go to establishment of marine protected areas today. Sustainable use, we're going to go to the issue of marine genetic resources and intellectual property. That is a huge issue. And then environmental impact assessments, just to summarize, is something that was not foreseen when UNCLOS was negotiated, but it's something that evolved later with the evolution of environmental law. In particular, environmental impact assessments is something that was developed in the realm of the law of the sea in the seabed authority regarding marine activity. Capacity building and transfer of marine technology were introduced there not because they were considered from the beginning, but because in parallel with PB&J at the General Assembly, we had many other processes of law of the sea taking place. And it was very evident in all those processes that, if you look at the convention, there is a whole section on transfer of technology. That is section 14 of the convention. And there is, in general agreement, that transfer of technology, part 14 of the convention is, let's say, the least applied part of the convention. It's a part of the convention that, after its negotiation, was very much affected by discussions on trade and intellectual property, because basically the biggest powers were not very keen on the transfer of technology in, for free to developing countries. So that's the reason why this was introduced. And as we saw yesterday, transfer of marine technology has a lot to do, in particular, with marine genetic resources. Because as we saw yesterday, most probably, I would say today, the 95% of biotechnological research today is carried out by 10 countries in the world, not more. So if we are going to have a meaningful agreement, capacity building and transfer of technology should be there. It's something that was introduced at the last meeting, but it makes a lot of sense. So that is a package that we saw, and we're going to go through the main issues. The main issue we saw yesterday already, there are two maritime areas involved. Beyond national jurisdiction, we have the water column. So after the EZ, we saw all these maps and graphics. After the EZ, what we have is the high seas. That is regulated by Part 7 of the Convention. And beyond the limits of the continental shelf, we have the area, the seabed and subsoil beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. So we have two maritime areas in parallel. Many times they do coincide, many times they don't. Sometimes when you have a big continental shelf, the area starts in 300 or 350 miles. The high seas always starts in 200, after 200 miles. So what is complicated about having two maritime areas involved? If you look at the history of the negotiation of UNCLOS and the whole structure of UNCLOS, UNCLOS was structured by means of what was called the zonal approach. So the resources and the activities in each maritime area are regulated in accordance with the maritime area in which they take place. So I think I mentioned this yesterday, but you have different species forming part of the same marine environment. But if a species lives 70% or most of its life attached to the ocean floor, that species is going to be regulated by the legal regime of the continental shelf, not of the water column, even when there is fisheries in the water column. But those fish are, let's say, children of the water column. And then you have the sedentary species that are children of the continental shelf. So there is something that called the geographical appurtenance. If you are a resource in the sea, it depends on where you're attached to, and that is the legal regime that is going to regulate your life and your exploitation. This makes it very complicated for when in the evolution of environmental law that impacted the law of the sea a lot, concepts such as ecosystem approach had to be developed very carefully into law of the sea, basically because you have a whole ecosystem, but you have different maritime areas. And there were conflicts from time to time. And I can tell you, some years ago, with the question of vulnerable marine ecosystems, some people who were at the United Nations have heard about this. Vulnerable marine ecosystems are creatures of the sea bottom that are affected by bottom trawling. So many times those fisheries, those fishing activities are activities of, collecting sedentary species. But many times those vulnerable marine ecosystems of, let's say, the continental shelf, geographical appurtenance, you are a sedentary species, you are resources of the continental shelf, they are affected by fishing activities of the high seas. And there we have a problem because when the continental shelf coincides completely with the exclusive economic zone, everything is under the jurisdiction of one state. Up to 200 miles, if you cut the sea, you have EEZ and continental shelf belonging to one state. When in 200 miles, a state continues with a continental shelf, what you have is high seas superjacent to the continental shelf. And there's where you have conflicts because the coastal state naturally wants to conserve the resources of its own continental shelf, but those who are fishing, they argue that they are fishing, there's freedom of fishing in the high seas. So how do you conserve when you have this question of the geographical appurtenance? And there was a lot of conflict with the question of vulnerable marine ecosystems. And I can tell you, as always, the European Union is a very good example. In order to comply with the General Assembly resolution, some members of the European Union decided to undertake extensive research of vulnerable marine ecosystems in the world. Vulnerable marine ecosystems, somebody can mention an example, the example of vulnerable marine ecosystems. Somebody coming from Australia or that part of the world? Corals, exactly. So they are attached to the ocean. So when you have the European Union or somebody else doing extensive research, you know that it's not going to be the water column. It is the ocean floor. And what they did was, in compliance with the General Assembly resolution, to undertake research and to try to determine the situation of those ecosystems. But in many places, those ecosystems were in the continental shelves of states. Their argument was, we are undertaking fishing activities in the high seas. And the argument of coastal states were, yes, but is the high seas adjacent to my continental shelf, so you cannot be here. So those kind of conflicts have to be solved from time to time. What happened in the end, just to finalize the story, the General Assembly decided with its Oceans and Law of the Sea resolution to introduce some paragraphs safeguarding the rights of the coastal states over the continental shelf, and that this kind of activity should be undertaken by the coastal state, not by the third country. So that is what happens when you have a whole ecosystem that is shared by different maritime areas. And states in general, I can tell you, when there is national sovereignty involved, they are very keen on defending UNCLOS and the sovereign approach of UNCLOS. So this is one issue that we have. Two maritime areas that are beyond national jurisdiction, their regimes, their legal regimes couldn't be more different. The high seas is free for all. The area is common heritage of mankind, and it has an authority, an intergovernmental body, so they are completely different in their nature. You remember the provisions of UNCLOS basically and freedom of scientific research in the high seas. That is the water column. When we go to the area and the resources are the common heritage of mankind. This is very important. It's not only the resources, it's the area itself that is common heritage. Resources, we saw yesterday that in the convention, the definition is limited to minerals. That poses a question to our problem for developing countries, arguing that genetic resources should be common heritage. What the general conduct of states in the area has to do with the nature of the area as common heritage of mankind. And just to remind you, great contradiction with the regime above. Marine scientific research in the area has to benefit mankind as a whole. If you look at Article 143, it does not limit marine scientific research in the area to minerals. It says marine scientific research in the area, so it's everything. And finally, an interesting clause, Article 311 of UNCLOS. This is a very interesting article. Who is familiar with the concept of use cogens? Let's see the lawyers. What is use cogens?
It's a norm that is over all other norms in international law.
It sounds like an umbrella, but this is not. What is the legal definition?
It's a regulatory norm that can only be changed by another norm of the same character.
Can it be derogated?
No.
No. Okay. Use cogens in Latin, but peremptory norm of international law, as the common law like to say, is a norm of international law, and the definition is very important. That is agreed upon by all the international community as being a norm that accepts no derogation and can be modified only by a norm of the same character. So basically there is agreement that that is like a super norm, like what you were referring to, can never be derogated and only modified by a norm of the same character. Examples of peremptory norms? There's one clear example. There's some under discussion.
Torture, prohibition to torture.
There could be a prohibition of torture. The first example would be
Viruses?
I'm not sure. The prohibition of the use of or threat of force. Article 2.4 of the Charter of Human Rights. That is the example of peremptory norm. What happened with this article, with this clause, is that during the negotiations of UNCLOS, the delegation of Chile proposed basically to copy the language of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties to define that the common heritage of mankind was a peremptory norm of international law. That was not accepted, but what was accepted is that if UNCLOS were one day amended, the state parties agree that the common heritage of mankind principle will not be amended. That is something that reinforces this principle. Second big issue, and now we're going into the substance of the negotiation. Fisheries. When we talk about marine biodiversity, yesterday we agreed that marine biodiversity is all marine life, everything there is. Of course, we're also talking about seals and whales and dolphins, everything there is, vulnerable marine ecosystems. But the biggest issue, for obvious reasons, mainly economic, is fisheries. So what to do with fisheries? Fisheries has been considered in the framework of these negotiations in different ways. But I would summarize everything into two. The first one is whether to include capture fisheries. Let's say re-regulate the access of nations to fish. Basically, fishing. When we talk about capture fisheries, the question is, are we going to re-regulate everything there is? I guess until now you've been through some lectures on fisheries. There are agreements on fisheries. There are global agreements on fisheries. The FAO is very active in fisheries. There are regional fisheries management organizations. So the question is, do we want to re-regulate all that through a global agreement? Big question. There is, of course, the question of whether, if the intention is to re-regulate fisheries, what we're going to do is to have a super fisheries plus PB&J agreement, which would regulate access to fish, but also access to all the resources. I have to say that it doesn't look like there is the majority intention in this, but there is a question. And the third question is, regarding fish, is genetic resources from fish. Fish, like all marine life, are a source of genetic resources. So if we are going to negotiate and consider the issue of genetic resources, are we going to include fish or not? And of course, what is the difference between freedom of fishing in the high seas for captured fisheries and freedom of fishing for using the genetic resources? Of course, the biggest fishing nations sustain that there is no difference, that the use of genetic resources from fish are like an accessory of captured fisheries. Conservation, another big issue. Conservation includes NPAs, but is not limited to NPAs. There could be a number of measures to adopt to preserve marine biodiversity. In particular, if you look at the fact that we're including all marine life, so there could be different kind of measures to adopt. So the first question there is, who is going to adopt the measures for protection? And here there is a variety of opinion. In the beginning of the discussions, groups such as the Pacific states, for example, that have their regional agreements that are very strong in place, and the European Union, that is to be the example of regional undertakings, their proposal was the same people that are adopting measures today should continue to do so with a better framework. So basically, the same actors. The problem there was one of legitimacy. That was pointed out by many states. Many states, in particular from the G77, used to point out what you're doing is not opposable to me. Why would I agree to give a blessing for you to continue to do it? If we are going to negotiate an agreement, it would be better to have better legitimacy options and better procedures. There is an agreement that was included in Resolution 6992 that convenes the PREPCOM. And this is very interesting, because the question of who will adopt and what role those organizations that existed will play was on the table. And is this phrase not to undermine? There was a proposal by, in particular, Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific states that have their own arrangements, that basically every aspect of the negotiation and the future agreement should respect existing organizations or the mandate of existing organizations. A contrary current was that it is not acceptable, or it was not acceptable to negotiate only to give a blessing to what there is. Now, if we're going to look for more legitimacy, we cannot start by saying, whatever there is, you will fully respect. So the agreement was to say that the negotiations and a future agreement would not undermine, which is different from fully respecting. So there could be some possibility of integrating what is existing into a regime, but that doesn't mean that the regime will follow them. There was here a contradiction in position by delegations. And of course, the biggest question today on the table, having seen the discussions at the second session of the CARCOM, is whether we're going to have a regional or a global approach, or basically those who've gone through the fish stocks agreement, and we're going to go to that. The fish stocks agreement is probably the best example of regional approach, conservation through the regions, the states in the region. The global approach is what many delegations are favoring today, which is mainly to respect what there is, or not to undermine what there is, but to cover it with a global umbrella. And many delegations basically have the concern that today RFMOs have not delivered the way it was expected. RFMOs, which is the regional approach, looks rather imperfect. And why? Because in the end they are clubs of fishers. So there is a competition for resources. So, in this global versus regional approach, what we have is several possibilities. And delegations were already advancing this position. Those who are more liberal, and in general this coincides with countries that attach a lot of importance to organizations they are members of. Big example, Norway, with fisheries organizations and OSPAR, an environmental organization. But to them, a mere coordination, parameters for coordination among existing organizations would suffice. It looks like the United States is close to that position too. There is another possibility, which is something like middle ground, which is a global organization, like a conference of states parties to the future agreement, that would adopt guidelines, parameters for the establishment of conservation measures, including NPAs, and existing organizations would apply them at their level, at the regional level. There are differences in the position of states regarding reporting and monitoring. Some believe that in such a scheme, with parameters adopted at the global level, then you go down to the regional level for application, and at a certain point there is information going back up to the conference of the parties for information. Others would like to see more monitoring, the conference of state parties being more active in the follow-up of the application of those measures. Others, that I thought were a minority, but it's increasing, believe that the establishment of NPAs should not be left to the regional organizations. So the approval of an NPA should be done by the global institution. And then implementation would go down to the regional level, but the mere approval would be at the level of the global institution. Of course, here there are many states that believe that we should not create a super global institution for this kind of measures. The role of other RFMOs and other organizations is one of the most critical issues, and delegations have not gone through it completely. Basically because RFMOs regulate fishing, and it's a very important you've gone through the United Nations Fisheries Agreement, that is the agreement on fisheries. It is based on a regional approach. It establishes or allows for the establishment of regional fisheries management organizations. so it's not, it is global in the application, but it's not global in the organizations that it gives rise to. It applies to capture fisheries and to 2 species of fish, not to every fish in the high seas, only to struggling fish stocks and highly migratory fish stocks. Okay? Only to those 2. One of the questions is whether it would be possible to somehow, through the BB&J future agreement, allow for an extended mandate of RFMOs. Today, RFMOs are for this species. And another big question is, what happens with other kinds of organizations that were not foreseen in UNCLOS and are not foreseen in any global agreement, but were born thanks to regional undertakings? A very good case of this is OSPAR, the Organization for the Conservation of the Marine Environment in the North Atlantic. Norway is very keen on seeing OSPAR being recognized. OSPAR as an organization that is not foreseen in UNCLOS, is not, let's say, the child of an agreement, has created some problems too. OSPAR has adopted marine protected areas in the high seas, and they were applicable to the seabed. You can imagine the conflicts it created. The first conflict was with the Seabed Authority, and the second conflict was with some states which continental shelves were included in the marine protected areas of OSPAR. So OSPAR was always very much under discussion. And there is another phenomenon here that is called the Regional Seas Conventions. It's a creation of UNEP. It's a development in UNEP, an organization that, in my view, has no competence in law of the sea, but they believe they do, and they do it. And they have a convention for the establishment of what they call the Regional Seas Convention. So basically, it's like regional organizations for the regulation of some aspects of oceans issues. They don't cover all the world, but there are countries for whom this kind of convention make a lot of sense, so they would like to see them recognized. Up to now, any questions before we go to NGRs? Yes.
You said you worry about the value of genetic material, like genetic research.
Now we're going to NGRs.
Okay.
Okay. Can you give the question?
Yes, it's about, like, everybody is worried about fish, and then everybody hates my topic, but what about, like, big animals, like marine mammals and stuff? They have genetic resources that are also worth protecting, and maybe they're not being taken into account, and why? How do you make the, like, the separation between fisheries of fish? Like, biologically, obviously I know the difference of fish and a marine mammal, but there are also marine mammals that are being fished or harvested.
Thomas would love your question. What is the difference between fish and whales?
What? No, like why? Why it's not included? Like I know whaling is not allowed, but it is for scientific research purposes. But where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line in the harvest of other marine resources other than fish, other than for like feeding people?
Well, in the world of law, where in the law of the sea, everything is divided by the law. So basically what happens is that there are different legal regimes for fish and for marine mammals.
But that's actually only for whaling.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the animals?
Okay, look at Annex 1 of the convention. Highly migratory species, I'll tell you what it says. Can you tell me which are the highly migratory species included in UNCLOS? Very good example. And you will find the answer to your questions. There is a list of highly migratory species included in UNCLOS. Who found it? What does it include? So there's the question. What else? Basically, okay, and citation, and Article 65 of UNCLOS, what does it say? Yes. It's not 100% related to the topic, but it's very related topic. 65 is about marine mammals. When UNCLOS was negotiated, there was not overall agreement as to how to deal with mammals. There are some issues that you will not find clearly stated in UNCLOS, and that's because either there was disagreement or because it was regulated somewhere else. For example, there is nothing about polar regions, nothing about Antarctica, nothing about the Arctic. And that's because the Arctic and the Antarctic in particular said, oh no, we don't want to see this in UNCLOS, so UNCLOS is silent. Marine mammals was a hot potato. So, because mammals swim in the sea with fish, but they are not fish. And there was already the International Whaling Commission when UNCLOS was negotiated. So there was this tradition in many states negotiating UNCLOS to consider whales as something completely different from fish. Some others, as you say, sustain their own marine resources. And I'm mentioning Thomas because he said, in Iceland we eat whales. But basically, if you look at UNCLOS, it looks a little bit contradictory, but it's like an agreement to disagree. And the way UNCLOS addressed marine mammals is by including marine mammals, or some of them, species of whales, in highly migratory species, and you would say 1 point for those who say that these are fish. But then you have specific provisions regarding marine mammals, which show you that they are not fish, or they are not regulated by fish, the fish rules. And what is the difference between fish in terms of the law of the sea, fish and whales? That fish are commercial goods and whales are not. It's a highly well-paid commercial activity. And many states in the world live out of fisheries. The big fishers and some small fishers too. Fisheries is key to the economy of many states. That's the reason why it is treated differently. They are commercial value. There is an example. One of the biggest exporters in fish, for those from Latin America, is in Latin America. Peru. Yeah, you have Peru, you have Chile. It would be surprising to say that Argentina exports more fish than meat. It is. We eat the meat, we export the fish. Fish is very important to many states. So when you start discussing marine biological diversity beyond national jurisdiction, what are you talking about? You're talking about high seas fisheries. That's what you're talking about. And that's the reason why countries like Peru are not concerned, because we're not talking about fisheries within the sect. Who is concerned when you talk about fisheries in the Ganges? Japan. Really, a big fisher in the high seas. So it is a highly
the big oiler.
I'm not going to talk about whaling because it's not the issue now. But I mean, we can have a conversation after this. But the question is, if you look at the species from the point of view of the use of genetic resources, there is no difference as to the source. It could be a turtle, it could be a whale, it could be fish. The problem we have with fisheries is that as it is a very important commercial activity, it is highly regulated. So those who are under the regulation and who live out of fisheries would prefer fisheries not to be more regulated. So if your country's position, let's suppose you're Japan, and you say, okay, all right, you're Japan, in this negotiation, what would you say? Fisheries, high seas freedom. First of all, high seas freedom. Second of all, if you're going to regulate marine genetic resources, not from fish, because they are part of the fish, and the fish is high seas freedom. I mean, you start to articulate your position with what you have in the regulation of fishery, and that's where countries start. But it's a very complicated issue as to where to stop. And I think that the beauty of the question is that it poses where to stop. Marine biodiversity is everything. Do I include fish? If I include fish, I include waste. Where do I stop? Do we regulate everything in the world? Well, that is what marine biological diversity is. Everything is the same.
And there's another, question concerning the same thing, like, where do you draw the line on marine biodiversity? Because, like, polar bears are considered marine mammals, biologically speaking. But I don't know if legally speaking.
They are not marine species. They're uncles also.
So
They're
no,
not species of this.
okay, but no polar bears, no himalayas, no, just whales and dolphins.
Fortunately, you draw the line.
Okay.
Seals could be, they could be included. Absolutely. And many other species you would never imagine. But if you talk about marine biodiversity, it really is everything. Correct?
Seabirds.
It could be. It is everything. I'm sorry, but marine biodiversity is everything.
For me, it's
That's
everything, but
how complicated the issue is. And then, on top of all the species in the sea, you have the genetic resources of all the species. And those of the sea bottom. So MGRs. Marine biodiversity, yesterday we saw a video, we saw the bench communities. In general terms, the largest genomic diversity on Earth is marine. There are more species in the sea than on Earth. So that is evident. After 2000, 95% of the patent claims have been from marine origin. So we're going to talk a little bit about patents. There you have some numbers and the global market for marine biotechnology that is growing and growing. And here we are not only talking about fish, we're talking about basically enzymes, bacteria, microorganisms. So on top of the fish and all the species, we have the microorganisms, which are the other side of the equation. What are the areas of interest? Yesterday we were talking about the enzymes for food industry, biofuel, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals. Do you know how you do the bleaching of the genes? How are the genes? Like, you remember that some time ago they were made with stones and so on? But not anymore. There is a bacteria coming from the sea bottom that does that. Commercial application. This progress in biotechnology is led by an activity called bioprospecting. Bioprospecting can be defined as the search for valuable genetic material, which is that material that could lead to commercial application. Well, you need to, first of all, you need to research and then develop a product and then put the product in the market. But it's a long process.
Can you argue that you are doing bioprospecting without a commercial application?
Yes and no. That is a very interesting thing. A narrow definition would be the search. So basically, what defines this bioprospecting is, how to say, the objective. What do you want to discover? I'm looking in the sea bottom for something that could be used for commercial applications. It's not for the benefit of mankind. There is a commercial purpose. That is in the heart of the definition. A broad definition that also has the commercial purpose in its heart is that you also add the development of products. One of the biggest problems of this kind of definitions is that they don't take into account the way in which research at this kind of microorganisms is taking place. The way in which it takes place, if you remember yesterday, is that basically public research institutions that are publicly funded, undertake the research. They take samples and then they pass them on to the industry. So this definition has the problem that it is not really covering the phenomenon, because when a public institution goes to the sea bottom and takes samples, they don't have a commercial purpose when they are doing research. The commercial purpose comes into play later when this is passed on to the industry. So, how do you exploit when you talk about use? Use is exploitation. How do you exploit genetic resources? Who knows a little bit of patent? You do it through patents. What is a patent? What is a patent? Any idea? Yes and no. It's more than. Yes, it's the right of war. It's an exclusive right of exploiting what? A patent. When you buy, I don't know, a movie, a pirate movie, something that is illegal, whose right are you undermining? The company? The company? The developer or the person who did it? The person. Yes. The composer. The composer, the author, the inventor. Here we are in the realm of inventions. So basically, a patent is an exclusive right of the inventor of a product or a process. The product can include technical improvements, so it becomes a different product. One thing is a table, and a different thing is a table with wheels. So the invention is table with wheels, even when originally it was a table. But there is what is called the inventor's jump. There is a jump there that is due to the inventive capacity of a person. You also have, or you can also patent processes, which are technical solutions to problems, which is the way of doing something, the way of solving a problem. Normally the patents are granted for 20 years. You have an exclusive right for 20 years. What does the exclusive right mean? That nobody can use or sell your product or your process without authorization. Normally, when that authorization is given through a payment. That gives rise to royalties. So, how is this regulated? For something to be patentable, we have an agreement adopted at the WTO in 1994, the World Trade Organization. You know, in 1994, the World Trade Organization was given birth with basic agreements that are regulating our commercial activities until today, and we continue to do so. And this is one of the key agreements, trade-related aspects of intellectual property. It's called as the TRIPS agreement. Basically, all aspects of intellectual property are covered by that agreement. Any idea of why that agreement was negotiated, or for whom? negotiated for the pharmaceutical industry. One big country. 1994. In its Article 27, this agreement, the TRIPS agreement, defines the patentable subject matter, which means, in intellectual property terms, what can get a patent? What are the characteristics of something to be patentable? And it clearly says, or any inventions, any kind of inventions, products or processes, in all fields of technology, provided that they are new, involve an inventive step, and are capable of industrial application. This is key for the discussions on marine genetic resources. The requirements are the novelty. It shouldn't be publicly known. Something that is known to the public cannot be patented. It has to be your secret. You invent something, you keep it secret, and then you go to the patent office. The inventive step, it has to show an improvement. It has to be really new. This involves a human activity, the human activity of invention. Why this is important? Because an invention is not a mere discovery. A discovery is something that exists, and somebody through a process brings it out to the public knowledge, but it's not invented by the human mind. An industrial application. This is more or less commercial value. How do we get a patent? Because we have the TRIPS agreement at the global level, but we don't have a world patent office. The TRIPS agreement establishes the parameters. But basically, if you invent something, you have to go to your national patent office. Because intellectual property rights are territorially based. So you have to go to your patent office, and then if you want to protect your invention, you have to go to the patent office of other countries. Today there is an arrangement for patents to travel and be recognized in other countries, but it's not global. So there are deficiencies there. So when you talk about intellectual property and there are concerns, for example, in certain countries with your invention, it's because patent law is nationally based. And the fact that it is nationally based brings another issue, which is whether everybody in the world interprets the requirements of the TRIPS agreement in the same manner. There could be disagreements in the application, and so patent law differ from one state to the other. And there is a huge divide between developed and developing countries in certain aspects of intellectual property. So, another relevant provision is that members, when we say members, it's members of the WTO, and the TRIPS agreement says members, remember, because national laws are territorial. So, members of the WTO can exclude from patentability plants and animals other than microorganisms, the TRIPS agreement says. So, you can exclude plants and animals, but not microorganisms. So, are microorganisms patentable? Yes, they are. They are patentable, absolutely. But the questions are, and there is here some divide, as to whether the conditions of Article 27, remember, novelty, inventive step.
But microorganisms already exist. How can they be patented?
Through what? Yes, exactly. You have what is called genetically modified organisms. So remember, if there is an inventive step, you can patent. So the question is whether the three conditions of Article 27, which are the novelty, the inventive step, and being able of commercial application, are also applicable to microorganisms. And here there is a huge divide. In general, developing countries sustain that the three requirements are applicable, which means that a living organism, in order to be patentable, has to be genetically modified. It has to be an invention. Some developed countries allow for the patenting of microorganisms already existing in nature. In their interpretation of the TRIPS agreement, the mere discovery is bringing something to public knowledge, and it somehow equates to an invention. You can imagine how many concerns there are about this, because microorganisms are not necessarily completely endemic. So if somebody patents a microorganism in some country and say microorganism can be found in another country, then you have a problem of the patenting and the possibility of the use of the microorganism.
Can you patent the microorganism as a process? Would it be a problem for the other person?
You can patent, if it is a genetically modified organism, you can patent the process to get to the new organism and the new organism. There you patent a product and a process. The question is whether you don't have either a process or a product, and what you're patenting is something that you discovered in nature. And just to prove this, some experts in intellectual property have tried the patent laws of some countries, and I can tell you there is an expert in intellectual property from the United Kingdom who patented his own son. just to show how, what broad interpretation the European Patent Office is giving to the TRIPS agreement. Yes?
It happens in modified design.
Well, I'm not sure he modified the sun, but he did patent the sun. So the practice, as I said, is that the biggest patent offices, in general, where there is a lot of innovation and a lot of biogenetic activity, those laws are more permissive. It is a general trend in developing countries that microorganisms, in order to be patented, have to have that inventive step. The question is that marine genetic resources bring into, this is what the TRIPS agreement and the practice of patents say. But the real truth is that the TRIPS agreement was not negotiating for the marine world. Patent laws and the TRIPS agreement are very much land-oriented. So the question of declaration of origin is something that is very important for the marine realm, because we need to know whether it comes from within or beyond national jurisdiction. And that is not something that even today is being considered even at the WTO or at the WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. And as I said, another challenge is the fact that if you take as a point of departure the definition, the strict definition of bioprospecting, the real truth is that many times you have access to these resources not with that commercial purpose, but for pure scientific research. And then you end up in a product. Finally, the sharing of benefits. When we talk about MGRs and to regulate the use, it is for one purpose. It's to regulate the access, but also to allow for means so that those few states that have the technology to get rich from this in the future could share benefits with the rest of mankind. The question is, what does sharing of benefit mean? The sharing of benefits is an expression that comes from CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity. It's not defined in it. If you look at the Nagoya Protocol, that is additional to the Convention on Biological Diversity, it talks about fair and equitable sharing of benefits. But it's not necessarily something that refers to something that we are dealing with here. The sharing of benefits in a fair and equitable manner in the Convention on Biological Diversity refers basically, and remember, it is a convention that is very much land-based also. It refers more or less to this situation. Developed countries go into the territory of developing countries, discovering valuable genetic resources, taking them to the labs, and there, what fairness would say is we need to share benefits with those that are in origin of those genetic resources. So basically, it's a question of extraction of genetic resources from one country, enriching another one, and the second one sharing benefits with the country of origin, which is not necessarily the situation we have here. The question is that in the law of the sea, sharing of benefits looks more like something that is known in the law of the sea, which is common heritage of mankind. And I can testify that when sharing of benefits was included in the package, it was included thinking of somehow reflecting the common heritage of mankind of the law of the sea. What is the relationship of sharing of benefits with innovation, which is the other side of the coin? In general, negotiators from developed countries sustain that in order to have an industry willing to go to the sea bottom and do research, etc., to develop new products that are good for mankind, including medicines, you need to have some incentive, and the incentive is an economical one. So if money is taken from them through sharing of benefits, they will not have any incentive to develop anything. That is their position regarding innovation. And then the question of monetary and non-monetary benefits. The real truth is that without a commercial economic incentive, companies or laboratories are not going to develop anything. But also, you need to take into account that some of those developments could be made. Just to share with you, anybody here from India or Brazil? Okay, what happened with the TRIPS agreement like 10 years ago? No? Okay, I will tell you. There were pandemics in Africa. So, in order to combat HIV, some African countries and also Brazil were in a huge challenge because you had patent laws that made it very expensive for some countries to get HIV medicine for their populations. And then you had other pandemics in Africa, so a crisis exploded, and Brazil, together with many African countries, went to the WTO to say the TRIPS agreement is nonsense. It supports innovation, it supports the development of medicine, but then we cannot pay for it. And we have a crisis, health crisis everywhere. So what happened is that the members of the WTO negotiated an amendment to the TRIPS agreement that allows, in certain situations of pandemia, let's say health crisis, to break the patent and to do something that everybody knows. Those medicines that have no brand and no name, how are they called? Generics, exactly. So it is true, as I said, that it is necessary to have an economic incentive for development and innovation. But it is also true that the TRIPS agreement already once had to face the possibility of somehow limiting the absoluteness of patents for the benefit of mankind. And that is in particular relevant to the question of monetary and non-monetary benefits. There is a lot of discussion today as to whether the developing world wants to take out money from the big companies. There could be non-monetary benefits. Non-monetary benefits, for example, could be a patent that is not a year, maybe 10 years for medicine. that be good for mankind. Of course, you have to deal with the TRIPS agreement. But in order to consider those possibilities, there are two instruments that could serve as a basis for discussion. One is the Nagoya Protocol to the CBD for access and benefit sharing that contains provisions for monetary sharing of benefits, but also non-monetary sharing of benefits. That is something that negotiators will have to look at. And the FAO International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture. What this agreement does at the Food and Agriculture Organization, it created a pool of crops, genetic resources. All the parties basically contribute with crops, with genetic resources, and everybody can use the genetic resources. This is particularly relevant for all those countries that are agriculture countries, and they need to have access to those genetic resources. So they contribute and they gain from that. The difference in this situation is that what you have at the FAO is basically that the biggest agricultural countries in the world are members to this agreement, and they are so in equal conditions. You put something in the pool and you take something in the pool. The situation regarding marine genetic resources is that you have around 10 big countries that take everything and the rest of the world is not participating. So you need to find the incentive for them to create a pool for the rest of the world. So that is something that we will have to consider in the future. And with this, I hope I have not confused you too much. Thank you for your attention, and I'm open to questions if we have, I don't know, how long. India.
Yeah, first of all, a comment, it's not being a lawyer and a biologist, taking part in the last meeting at the BPNA was really struck me was when you talked about it as well as this ecosystem approach. Because it seems like everybody would like to talk about it, but even though that everybody is realizing that, this approach will continue and I think it will develop, it seems like people are not ready to really accept the definition, so to say. Can you follow me? It seems like because we have built it up this UNCLOS and we have all these different regimes, so it seems like we are locked into a system where it's not applicable. That's my just an observation. The other thing is that I try to go around this, how to look at BBNJ from the freedom of the high sea, the freedom of the high seas, and also, the common heritage, the benefit of mankind. And I read your paper that you were circulating here. You argue that the new agreement, implementation agreement, should be seen from the area regime, so to say. If we imagine that we had a situation where there was no agreement on fish, would you then think that a new agreement on fish should be seen from a common heritage of mankind or the freedom of the high seas?
Okay, oh my God. Okay, the first one was the ecosystem. The ecosystem approach, in my view, I haven't seen my personal experience in law, obviously, has the problem that it encompasses everything, but then when you put it in the framework of UNCLOS, what you have is conflicting jurisdictions. So there is, and not necessarily when states negotiate the application of the ecosystem approach or agree upon geo-resolutions, for example, they disagree. The problem is implementation. So, as an example, vulnerable marine ecosystems is the typical case. Everybody agrees, ecosystem approach, there is fisheries, there is something in the sea bottom, we need to preserve everything. Ecosystem approach. When there is implementation, what happens is that states attach a great importance to the jurisdictions, the rights and duties defined in the convention. So there's where, Spain says, well, I'm protecting the sea bottom from the fishing activities under my jurisdiction, flag state, and of course the coastal states say, this is very nice, but this is my continent, So there is where, beyond the agreement on the concept, when it comes to application, UNCLOS is very clear as to jurisdiction. So from time to time, it's not always conflicted, but you have this kind of come and go with those jurisdictions. And I think it is inevitable. There could be ways of developing it a little bit better through cooperation and more consultation. But one of the things that, at least in my view, is important is that when we negotiate, when states negotiate ways of application and ecosystem approach, they should really be aware of the fact that these kind of things will arise. Otherwise, you agree to something and then it appears on the ground. But I mean, it's inevitable because UNCLOS is a framework that is very strong. And you can also see that states don't want to do away with UNCLOS. So you need to live with both. Regarding the area, my work had a lot to do with the area, so it's like looking at it from the bottom to the high seas. If there were no fish,
Maybe I can, why I'm thinking this is that you argue that we don't look at fish because it's commercial, that's just to put it very simple.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm
Okay.
saying that it's very difficult because
Because,
it is a highly commercial activity.
yeah, okay, but what, I guess we will see in the future that marine genetic resources will also be very commercial and very interesting. That's why we're having this discussion. So I was just thinking, couldn't you compare them and then just say that because of that, you could argue against it? Can you follow me?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know, I'm not clear here.
But
so
I
that's
wouldn't
why-
say, what I would say is that in regarding marine genetic resources, everything is to be said.
Yeah.
Regarding fisheries, it is
So
already
we have to-
regulated. It's one of the
And that was
oldest
actually why I
activities.
said if we imagine that we didn't have an agreement on fish, would you do it differently now?
Well, I mean, the first agreement on fish is UNCLOS. So,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But
so-
if you look at the evolution of UNCLOS in regarding fisheries, it's very difficult to do away with the current regime of fisheries. The EEZ was born because there were countries that had fisheries resources within 200 miles, and they wanted full sovereignty. For them, it is very difficult to change that. The trade-off was the rest is going to be high seas. For those who are not coastal states, it's going to be very difficult for them to do away with that. So my feeling is that regarding fisheries, the regime of UNCLOS, with many agreements supporting or complementing, is so solid that you cannot compare one with the other. I mean, it's very difficult for the economies of many countries to change the rules on fisheries today. And I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm saying that that is the heart of the difficulty. Sorry. We have the lady first, okay. Gender balance, and then we go to you.
I have two questions. This one is pertaining to,
Or I will repeat.
intellectual property rights.
Yeah.
In the context of Part 11, particularly Article 166, and the General Assembly resolutions which the area has resources as the common heritage of mankind, how compatible would patenting be with that particular regime?
Yeah.
And then regarding fish, is it possible to regulate fish as a marine, as a genetic resource, and separate it from fish as a biological resource with you to not encroach on the existing marine?
Thank you. Okay, one question is whether it is compatible with the fact that the area and its resources are becoming native for mankind to have scientific research that leads to patents. My feeling is that if you look at 143 that says that marine scientific research in the area has to benefit mankind as a whole, you would quickly say, okay, you cannot get a patent for that research. Unless you have such a regime that you get a patent and you share benefits. Because the whole system today for the area does not exclude the appropriation of resources. if you look at the regime for the area, companies can come, take the minerals, commercialize the minerals, but they need to share benefits with mankind. So I don't think it's completely incompatible. The question is, you need a regime to ensure there is this sharing of benefits that will be in the heart and common heritage of mankind. And regarding fish, you can separate the use of fish as capture fisheries and fish for genetic resources. I think it would be possible. My sincere judgment on this is that the negotiations are so complicated that it would be very difficult to separate them from fish. Maybe a pragmatic approach would suggest that it is better to take fish as a whole. Unless the negotiations had started differently. I'll give you an example. In the Antarctic Treaty today, there are negotiations on marine bioprospecting, but they started as bioprospecting. So you take the genetic resource from fish as a part of a big discussion on marine or on genetic resources, not even marine, but all Antarctic genetic resources. And fish is a little part of it. When you take that discussion to the United Nations and to BBNJ, fisheries is a big issue. So genetic resources is a part of fish and not the other way around. And fisheries is what makes everything very difficult. So I would say, being pragmatic, I would not separate them. I think maybe a trade-off would be, let's take the sea bottom and leave the fish.
I actually asked because during the several negotiations, several delegations that actually made that suggestion
To be pragmatic.
to separate those
No,
as a genetic resource from a biological resource. So I just wonder how.
I don't think it is impossible. If you look at the Antarctic Treaty, there is a fish called the ice fish, which enzymes are being used for cryology. But it was easier to conceive because all the negotiations started from the point of view of genetic resources, not from the point of view of fisheries. And in my view, that is what makes it a little bit easier to handle. But the real truth is that in BBNJ, frankly, fisheries landed like a penguin on the belly. Like, wow, it's a big issue. It's going to be very difficult to get out of the fisheries equation. And then the gentleman.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking in Article 143,
Yep.
it says that marine scientific research in the area shall be carried out exclusively for peaceful purposes.
Yeah.
So how do you define peaceful purposes? And
How?
what kind of importance does it have?
It's very interesting because you need to look at the history of the convention. There are two instruments negotiated in the same era. And with era, I don't mean decades. It's Cold War era. Look at the Antarctic Treaty. Everything has to be for peaceful purposes. And the area is the part of UNCLOS that has more to do with the time in which UNCLOS was negotiated. The whole issue of the area, the resources, and has a lot to do with the competition for the ocean and the need to avoid, the two biggest superpowers to go for it. So peaceful purposes is there, and it's a sign of the times. I would say that it's not to be used to develop weapons, mass destruction, or whatever. In the end, peaceful purposes and benefit of mankind led to a whole regime of an authority. Everything has to be authorized. There is an authority that acts on behalf of mankind. I'm not sure there is a better definition. If you look at other instruments, there are better definitions of what peaceful purposes mean, but
Okay.
not in UNCLOS.
Okay, not in UNCLOS. So you have to read it in the UN regime?
You need to read it at the UN in general, or look at other instruments that were negotiated at the time. To me, the most clear one is the Antarctic Treaty, that not only talks about peaceful purposes, but also defines what peaceful purposes means. I mean, not to do certain things, not to take military to Antarctica, not to use weapons in it. I mean, it went through what it means. But it's basically a clause that has to do with the fact that it was not only that UNCLOS was negotiated at a time of Cold War, but that part of UNCLOS has a lot to do with that time.
Yeah, but for example, if you want to prevent resources to be used for development of weapons, then you have to measure this or observe like where the resources are going and how they're distributed.
Well, to start with, you have a whole regime for exploitation of minerals. Do you know where those minerals are going? Do you know if people are doing bullets? Because
Yeah, exactly.
it's a little bit incomplete, I agree. There are other regimes that made it clearer.
Do you think there is a solution of some kind?
I don't think that today that is the core of the concern. I think that the civil authority, like other parts of UNCLOS, has evolved with time. And I don't think that the concerns of the Cold War are at the heart of the problem today. People have other urgencies. I mean, those who introduced the phrase for peaceful purposes only today come with the phrase, what is it, ecosystem approach? I mean, the world evolves, and so urgencies vary from one decade to the other. You talked about common heritage of mankind in the convention. When the TRIPS agreement was negotiated, we had to renegotiate the convention. The 1994 agreement is nothing less than a negotiation in the light of the WTO agreement. That's what it is. Any other question or comment?
I would like to know your opinion with regard to the role of authority, because right now it seems that it's out of the scope of the authority.
Well, it is out of the scope of the authority because the authority has been very careful. I have to say the Secretary General has been very careful in not stepping into something that is evolving. Many developing countries, as far as I know, in the latest declarations of the G77, they would like to see an active involvement of the civil authority. Personally, I believe that it makes sense for several reasons. The first one is that the institution is already there. We're not going to create a new conference of the parties when the civil authority is there, and the parties would be the same. That's an important part. But it would make a lot of sense also from the point of view of the information the civil authority has. The civil authority, when authorizing plans for work, or contractors for minerals, has very strict rules regarding the marine environment in application of Article 145. It has a lot of information and a lot of knowledge of this kind of organisms, not of fish, but they do regarding the organisms that have to do with these mineral formations. And the vents, in the end, are active mineral formations. When the vents die, they become exploitable by the civil authority. So at least in what regards to the seabed, I would say it would make all sense to have the civil authority. As to whether to have the civil authority for everything, that is something that should be discussed. But my feeling is that there is a lot of myth regarding the civil authority. You know, there are some countries that in the beginning did not ratify UNCLOS because it was too much a communist approach. And still do not agree with the civil authority. So there is a lot of myth, but the civil authority is working well. It's very tidy in all its work. It would be an identity of parties. If we have a conference of the party and the civil authority, it would be the same members, basically. Like in UNCLOS, there is a lot of knowledge, there is a lot of activity already undertaken, but there is a lot of demystification to do. Like many delegations say, no, this cannot be the freedom of the high seas, like the freedom of the high seas is taking everything, or this cannot be common heritage of mankind because it's a communist approach. The real truth is that the way in which the common heritage of mankind has been applied I don't know, those from developing countries, have you received any cent from the civil authority? No, it's not producing anything from developing countries. So in the end, there is a lot of myth out there, but I think it will make a lot of sense. I'm not sure we can keep going, but okay. Thank you for